Hey, what's up, everyone? This is the Lemesis, your nemesis, and you can call me Lem. Welcome to Just Another Cheesehead podcast. We are excited to go over some Packer information, some Packer news, go over the last few games that we've missed. I'm your host, the Lemesis, and today's podcast is called Prove It. I still, I still believe what I've always said from the very beginning. I need to see more from Jordan Love and this Green Bay Packer team. Um, I'll go over the things that I thought that I was right about and I was wrong about. One thing that I was definitely wrong about, now that the season is over, today being the 9th of January, the regular season to be exact, is that I predicted that the Packers would win 7 games, the Packers for the entire season, and they actually ended up 9-8. So congrats to the Pack. But another name that I was going to title this podcast was Definitions Matter. And I think the details matter as always. One thing that you guys have to remember when you listen to my podcast, you're not going to just get, I'm a very intelligent person, right? I'm not an idiot. I'm a person that looks at the details, and I'm not going to just be a buffoon and just look at the wins and losses and make my analysis. Wins and losses matter, but that does not mean that if you win, I mean, we could talk about quarterbacks that I liked in the past that all they did was win, but they still didn't get an opportunity to play in the NFL. Or we could talk about Tim Tebow. Tim Tebow was a winner. Tim Tebow didn't lose, but he looked atrocious in his efforts to win those games for the first 3 quarters. So I think it's important to look at both wins and losses, and then why you win, why you lose, and then your individual performance. So to me, Jordan Love is still in the prove it deal. He's still on a prove it. I don't really believe in you. The reason why I don't is because I think that what we've seen with Matt LaFleur, the way he calls his plays for Jordan Love, I've seen him open up a little bit more in the last few games. But again, against who? Who did you do that against? So one, I think he's kind of played soft with Jordan Love. I still don't see consistency in his throwing, and I'd like to see his throwing to be more consistent over a multitude of games against very, very good defenses. And I don't want to see him, I want to see him throw the ball with intention to give the wide receiver a tight end the yards after the catch. And then again, I want to see him do that against legitimate defenses, because if we look at the defenses we played against, the teams we played against in the final, uh, you know, 3-4 weeks of the season were terrible. So this is where, rubber meets the road. Now that we're done with the regular season, we're going into the playoffs. We'll really get to see Jordan Love for who he really is, because teams are going to game plan for you. And, this little rookie team, just remember, they're only 9-8. Let's not act like this team is so amazing. And this is part of my concern with the polarizing opinions that people have of some of these players, is that as fans, we can get so hyped and so excited for a new player who we've never seen, and we're so disgruntled and angry for the old player who played for us for all those years. And we're so quick to be praising of Jordan Love. And then the danger I find is that we're going to very quickly and very swiftly, the moment the guy messes up or he shows any inconsistencies, then we're going to dogpile on him. And at the end of the day, me as a fan, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to be looking at the situation very logically and saying to you, like, hey, the signs are always there. Let me give you an analogy. Imagine you being in a relationship, and I think this happens a lot. You get a new relationship, you go on a new date, you get a new guy, a new gal, you have such a great time together, and you go out and you go to the movies, you go to a comedy club, you take walks in the park, you have the most amazing conversations, and then you are just nutty about this person. The only thing that you talk about is this person. You love them dearly. But then what normally happens? The reality of that situation sets in, and their flaws start to point themselves out. And then you become very, depending on if the relationship lasts or not. Let's say you get married and everything works out fine. When you have your first fight and you have those arguments, you start to realize that, wait, the signs of their negative attitude and their bad behavior were always there from the very beginning. And now you're past the honeymoon phase. You start complaining about the way that person treats you, the way that person talks to you. So what I'm finding is that as Packer fans, I listen to Packer fans. I listen to the radio. I listen to different channels, YouTube channels. What I'm finding is everyone's in this infatuation phase, right? Because you no longer are married to your ex. Aaron Rodgers is gone. So what you're trying to do is overinflate how great your new boyfriend is or your new girlfriend is. And unfortunately, in this situation, the new boyfriend and the new girlfriend is Jordan Love. And he's not that great. He's kind of mediocre, right? He's 9-8. And he should be worse, right? There's games where we should have no business winning. And he's a mediocre boyfriend. He's a mediocre girlfriend, right? But you're overinflating him and you're making him to be something that he actually is not. And then what happens is as more teams get to an eye on this kid and he looks like more and more of a threat, according to the media and all the overinflation, then when he doesn't live up to it, who's going to be the one standing with the proper expectations placed on the kid? It's going to be me. It's going to be here at Just Another Cheesehead Podcast. So what I'm trying to do is, one, if you really think about it, I'm trying to protect the kid. I don't want Jordan Love to meet these expectations that you guys are trying to place on him, which clearly is not, because like I said earlier, definitions matter. Like if Jordan Love is proven, I believe so far, to be a starter in the league. That's, I think, all that he's proven. But that does not mean he's going to have a Hall of Fame career. That does not mean he's going to be the next predecessor to Aaron Rodgers, meaning he's going to play in that position on our team for the next 10 to 15 years. I think he has to prove so much more. And then we need to start asking ourselves the question, how elite will he be? So from what I've seen so far, looking at this season, I think one thing you have to make as an assessment is, who are the leaders in the NFL today? What do their numbers look like? And then you should also try to compare those numbers to the past where you had previous great players playing in the league. I think when you look at the game that way, it helps you give a more healthy perspective of how good this player is going to be. So today we're in 2023. It's a very pass-happy league. And you have players like Josh Allen and Dak Prescott at the top. Now, this year, there's a lot of injuries at the QB position, so we didn't get to really see, Kirk Cousins the rest of the year, Joe Burrow, Aaron Rodgers was hurt. A lot of guys were hurt, even Justin Herbert, but he wasn't having the greatest year either. So to me, when I look at the league and I see players like Josh Allen with the highest offensive grade of 91.3 and Dak Prescott at 90.8, and their passer rating, as you can see on screen here, 86.7, 89.8, and this is just their overall offense, right? If we just look at the specific grades they have. So when you look at their overall grades, I'm a little concerned when you see players like Dak Prescott at the top, when you see players like Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen, because these guys don't blow me away. They're the best of what we have. But in my opinion, are these guys going to be better than the Hall of Famers we've seen before? That's the perspective I think you guys need to have when you think about this. These new guys, I'm not an old head who just wants to see these old players play continually. No, it's just, what role are they going to play in the future of the greatness of the quarterbacks we've seen? Are we going to see another Peyton Manning, another John Elway? Do these guys really remind you of that? Or are they just the best we have right now, and they're the only ones performing with the numbers that they have. So we have to just make do with what we have. Let's reword it this way. If everything was even and you had every quarterback who ever played right now playing in the NFL, they were all the same age and they all hit their peaks all at the exact same time, what would we say about these quarterbacks? Would Dak Prescott be in the top 10? No. Would Lamar Jackson be in the top 10? No. Would Josh Allen be in the top 10? I'm talking about their peaks. So if you had Aaron Rodgers at his youngest, playing with Steve Young, playing with Tom Brady, playing with Peyton Manning and Warren Moon and Steve McNair and Donovan McNabb, do you think a lot of these random QBs like Brock Purdy and Tua and Jalen Hurts would really be able to compete with some of the greats we've seen? And the answer to the question is no. It's a rhetorical question. They wouldn't. So that's the perspective that I'm coming from is, are you just the best that we have because the talent pool has been watered down? Okay. That's what I tend to think is the case. So then let's put it in the proper perspective. Will Jordan Love be really any better than what we've seen from Dak Prescott? Has he shown that he can has he shown enough to be as good as a Dak Prescott? And then do you want a top-tier Dak Prescott quarterback for your franchise QB? In my opinion, no. I don't want a Dak Prescott. I don't even really want a Josh Allen. I don't want a Brock Purdy. I don't want a Jalen Hurts. I don't want your ceiling to be Kirk Cousins or Donovan McNabb. That's not winning. That's not winning football. That's not winning championship football. You might win championship like conferences, NFC champions, right? Donovan McNabb went to the NFC championship game. What was it, like 3 or 4 years in a row? And then he went to the Super Bowl once, never won the Super Bowl. You get a Kirk Cousins who has never been to the Super Bowl. And is he a decent QB? Is he going to put you in the mix every single year? Yeah. But is he going to win you the Super Bowl? No. So, what kind of elite player is Jordan Love going to be when it's all said and done? So I think it's really, really important to think about it from that perspective. And then I think for the most part, you'll understand where I'm coming from. You'll understand why I don't really believe in Jordan Love, and I still think he needs to prove it. Because, one, I think that the talent pool of all the QBs in the league has dropped tremendously. And it's funny to say this, that I agree with Tom Brady when I don't even like Tom Brady, but it's just the truth. We haven't seen the consistent excellence that I think we've seen all through the 90s and the early 2000s to where we are today. Defenses aren't as tough as they used to be. The rules have changed, and we have to adapt and adjust. But I think that the offense is skewed in a way to make games be more high scoring. And that's the reason why that's another reason why I'm a little concerned with someone like Jordan Love, because even with the offense being in his favor, they're still not scoring a lot of points. So it just shows you how mediocre overall, like just looking at all the teams and then individually looking at Jordan Love specifically. So when you see Jordan Love here, he's ranked 12th on PFF out of all the QBs in the NFL. And let's just see like who's in front of him. He's got Jared Goff. Like Jared Goff is an 84.4 overall compared to Jordan Love at 83. Jared Goff was traded from the Rams to the Lions to get Matthew Stafford, and they won the Super Bowl. Do you really want a Jared Goff as a Jordan Love for your team? Is that who you want? I don't. Do I think Jordan Love's better than Jared Goff? No, I don't, and that's the concerning part. Justin Herbert is ahead of him. I know a lot of people, again, he's just a name. It's who they chose to really accent as like a great player, but he's not. Like he hasn't done anything yet. Do you think Jordan Love's better than Justin Herbert? I don't. Do you think he's better than Kirk Cousins? Do you think he's better than Jalen Hurts? I look at Jalen Hurts and Jordan Love kind of the same. but he's not even better than Jalen Hurts. To me, they're very situational QBs. They're guys who are put in a position and the team they put him in position to be successful. I know that sounds odd, but what I mean by that is there are other great players that they can be in unfavorable positions and they'll still perform well. So I don't like seeing teams try to tailor everything to make your stats look good, right? You run the ball all the way down the field, you get to the red zone, and then you just throw it, you just give it to Jordan Love to throw in a couple touchdown passes just to pad his stats. That's what I saw all season. I didn't see a lot of like, oh my gosh, he threw the ball 80 yards and it was the most perfect pass ever and he scored the touchdown. I didn't see a lot of those. And then I saw a lot of wide open guys catching the ball. Another concern, because they're not going to be wide open. These guys who are playing are not going to be wide open for their entire career. So can Jordan Love make that pass where it's not wide open and he can throw the guy open? That's the stuff that I'm not seeing. Now, when it comes to his elite talent, he can throw the ball to the corner of the end zone. He's pretty good in the red zone. But again, that's because Matt LaFleur designs his team that way. He draws up the plays that way. And that's the part that I have a concern of, like, all right, well, what's going to happen if we can't run the ball and we have to throw the ball? And there's no, because you know what happened to us with Aaron Rodgers, right? Remember, you always have to think about it from the perspective of we had a Hall of Fame quarterback for the last 30 years. So if those Hall of Fame QBs could only muster up 3 Super Bowl appearances and 2 Super Bowl victories, and then you're over here trying to crown Jordan Love as the next coming, this kid better be incredible. And he should be at the very least as good as Favre or Aaron, if not better. And I'm not seeing those numbers. I'm not seeing that kind of talent pop out on screen. When you look at our schedule of who we just played, we scored 17 points against the Bears. When we beat the brakes off of them 38-20 at the beginning of the season. And the Bears defense is not good at all. Like, if we go to the Bears defense is ranked 28th in the NFL, according to Pro Football Focus. I just pulled up the Bears defense. You can see it's filtered. Their overall defense is ranked 28th. They're a 7-10 team. Then who do we play before the Bears? We played the Vikings, and then we played the Panthers. So let's go look at them. The Vikings were ranked the 25th best defense in the NFL. So if Green Bay and their offense barely mustered up 17 points against a defense that was terrible, and we already knew the Vikings weren't really much of anything. As soon as they lost Kirk Cousins, we knew it was over. So, the Vikings only put up 10 points. We put up 33. That's great, right? And then we put up 33 against the Panthers. That's good too. But again, who are the Panthers? The Vikings aren't going to the playoffs. The Panthers aren't going to the playoffs. The Bears aren't going to the playoffs. And let's not act like that just because we're going to the playoffs, that makes us special. No, I do think the talent in the NFL as a whole has diminished, on top of the fact that we've had so many injuries this season, all across the board for multiple teams. So, again, it puts in perspective how good these guys are, right? In my opinion, when you look at the top quarterbacks in the league, there's only one name on this list that I think is deserving of elite status, and that's Patrick Mahomes. Now, he's having a bad year. It's not that great, but, if you think about it, who's better than – there's no one on this list I think that's better than Patrick Mahomes. None of them even have come close to his decoration of accomplishments. Josh Allen hasn't won anything. Dak hasn't won anything. Lamar hasn't won anything. Brock Purdy hasn't won anything. Tua hasn't won anything. Jalen hasn't won anything. Kurt, nothing. Now, Matthew Stafford, you can give it to Matthew Stafford, but he's old and he's on his way out. He was talented, but again, are you saying he's better than Patrick Mahomes? No. And again, this all comes back to, comparing Jordan Love to greats we've seen before and his competitors now. So I just don't think much of the guy, and I don't think we should be so quick to crown him. Because one, on the opposite end, we've seen players like Peyton Manning come into the league, and his first year is atrocious. And then he ends up being one of the best QBs to ever play the game. And you could see the reverse as well, where Jordan Love comes in, and because it's a pass-happy league and he's still not really scoring that much, he can have a decent first year and then just fall off the map. So I don't think this year that Jordan Love had was impressive because he's been sitting on the bench for years. This is his 4th season. And then you see someone like C.J. Stroud, who finished 14th overall when he had an injury. That's more impressive when I compare myself and I look at Jordan Love. Like, what did C.J. Stroud do being in the league for so long? Think about it. Geno Smith has been in the NFL for how long? And, even Geno at his best, which is right now, he's ranked 13th. Now, he had some injuries, but that's kind of where Jordan Love is at the moment. And can he get better? He can. But have I seen enough, in my opinion, to say that this guy is going to really do that? No. And I don't like the comparison of saying, like, well, let's look at the numbers Aaron Rodgers had his first year compared to Jordan. Well, the league was very different, and the teams he played against were different. So you can't say that at all. You can't look at the strength of schedule Jordan Love had compared to the strength of schedule that Aaron Rodgers had. And how about the teams that he played against? The Hall of Famers that were on those teams he played against. It's a silly way of approaching things. It's very similar to, like, just wins and losses, right? That's all it is. Well, if that was the case, Tim Tebow would still be playing because all he did was win. So, but clearly he's not. Now, let's look at the points per game. And, this is what I think is the most alarming thing. I heard a YouTuber, a Packer YouTuber, try to talk about how brilliant Matt LaFleur is. Like, I don't know how you can say that when he's only averaging 22.5 points on the season. So he's got 22.5 points overall on average for the regular season, and you think Matt LaFleur is amazing. He's just behind the Indianapolis Colts, who didn't make it to the playoffs this year. So I don't know how you look at that and you consider that amazing. I wouldn't consider that amazing at all. I mean, New Orleans 23.6, the Rams 23.8, Philly 25.5. We all know that the Super Bowl winner is coming from this top 6 teams right here. So that's not saying much. So to me, this kind of proves, like, right from, like, the top 4 teams, this kind of proves the point that I've been trying to making all along. That if you look at Dallas, Miami, San Fran, Baltimore, and then I would incorporate, like, the Cleveland Browns, but they don't have Deshaun Watson, but Flacco's not doing bad. And then I would even throw in again Kansas City Chiefs. Even though they're ranked number 15, they're way down there. And then, of course, Joe Burrow, but he's not playing. What you're seeing is just a league that's just bruised, a league that's just hindered, right? There's really only like 6 or 7 really, really decent to great teams, and everybody else is so close in averageness. That's why you're seeing these really weird records. And if you compare the AFC to the NFC, you got a lot more double-digit teams with double-digit wins for teams in the AFC do you have in the NFC. So it's like, what happens when you just have a lot of bad teams play each other? Well, eventually you're going to get, like, 50-50 splits, and then you'll have the teams that are elite that stand out, like the Dallases and the Miami and the San Franciscos, and the Baltimore Ravens that, will get those double-digit wins, those 12 and those 13 and 11, season victories. But then, we all complained about the Packers defense, which I've always complained about the Packers defense when we had an elite QB, but I have not been so, brutal with my analysis on the Packers because, look, at the end of the season, they're top 10 when it comes to team opponent points per game. So their scoring defense is top 10. If you remember, I told you guys it was like a 1.5 difference between the Packers and the top 10 defense. And with the final 2 games, that big, the holding the Vikings to 10 points really helped out a lot. And then holding the Bears to 9 at the end of the season helped out a lot. But again, those offenses and defenses weren't that great. So, I tend to this is what I expect to hear after we lose to the Dallas Cowboys. And if we win against the Cowboys, I'll be shocked. I still don't think that's enough because I don't really think much of Dallas either. So I expect to just hear all the Packer fans complain about how bad the defense is. That's what I'm expecting to hear. I expect Jordan Love to have a average game, probably a bad one where he throws picks. And then I expect the defense to give up a lot of points. And I expect to hear Packer fans probably not throw any blame on Jordan Love. They're just going to throw it on the defense. When I think Green Bay had no business even being in the playoffs, when you had the destiny in your hand and you had control over just beating the Giants and who else we had in front of us? It was the Giants and Bucks. So all you had to do was beat the Giants and Bucks, and you lose to the Giants 22-24. You lose to the Bucks at home 34-20. And then you barely squeak out a win against the Panthers 33-30. You had no business winning any of those games. Like, you just didn't. So the fact that we got into the playoffs was a miracle because it just means that other teams lost that gave us an opportunity, which just shows how bad the league is. We're the 7th seed. Before last year, I think this is the first year, there weren't even 7 teams that would make it into the playoffs on both sides, the conference. So this is just a new addition to the playoffs. So it's just kind of silly to me. So what are you really saying here? And then, again, let's just looking at the QB rating. He was 96.1. Again, that's not terrible, but what kind of players is he around? He's around Russell Wilson, Jared Goff, Baker Mayfield, Jake Browning. It just shows you how good these guys are. Now you can go to Patrick Mahomes and go, oh my God, he's better than Patrick. But Patrick's having a bad year, but he's proven himself, right? Again, it's all about, to me, it's context. Patrick Mahomes, a 2-time Super Bowl MVP and a 2-time Super Bowl champion. And he's had home field advantage almost every year. This will be the first year he hasn't. He'll at least potentially not play at home. So, I mean, he's proven. He's proven to the point where he can have a bad game. He can have a bad season. But Jordan Love is not. And, he's showing I'm around the Derek Carrs of the world. I'm around the Jared Goffs of the world. I'm around the Russell Wilsons of the world. And if that's what you think is great, then, to me, that's just where we have a difference of opinion. Big time difference of opinion. So, again, the Packers are now in a position where if they really are legit, they got to prove it now because you're no longer playing against a bunch of mediocre teams. You don't have the benefit of a trash schedule. They had the easiest schedule to close out the regular season, and we still didn't win every one of those games. So now we have to play the best because we are the 7th seed. So now you have to play the Dallas Cowboys, which I don't think we're going to beat. And if somehow we beat them, because it is Dallas, then we got to play the 49ers, who are the number 1 seed. So you get my drift, right? When you play the 49ers, and if they were to beat the 49ers, barring no injury, and, Nick Bosa's not gone, and Brock Purdy, he's out, and the 49ers are just a shell of themselves, then I guess I can say at that point, then we probably have something here. But we know reality, right? The reality says we're not beating the Dallas Cowboys. We probably will get trampled, and it will look like a joke for us to even be there. And Matt LaFleur is going to look stupid, and I think Jordan Love's going to play terrible, and I think he's going to throw picks all day, and I think our defense is going to give up a lot of points. And I won't be surprised if it's like a blowout and we lose like 35-0 because I don't think we belong. I don't think we've ever belonged. I don't believe in this Packer team or this organization or its leadership. I don't believe in Brian Gutekunst. I don't believe in Matt LaFleur or Mark Murphy. I, again, believe that we need to clean house. I think I've stated and proven enough with the evidence that I've shared with you guys over multiple weeks that this is not how it's going to go. I do not want us to dogpile on Jordan Love just because we're so quick to move on from the past and say, bump Aaron Rodgers. We don't like Aaron Rodgers. He's over here talking about Kookamaney COVID and fighting with Jimmy Kimmel and et cetera. And it's so easy, especially today when we're so divided as a nation, as a country, politically, it just doesn't make sense. So we're going to allow that to overcome our rational minds and make these, brass and rash decisions and say these outrageous things when we need to look at things properly with a sober mind. So I'm sober minded here, right? If Jordan Love continually turns into improves into an elite QB, again, I have zero issues with saying that I'm wrong. I would love to be wrong about that, because for us to have another elite QB behind center to give us 10 to 15 plus more years would be the best thing since sliced bread. I would love that. I don't believe that's going to be the case, because I do think the league is watered down. We're not seeing talent. We're not seeing these great offensive talents. We're not seeing these, defying the odds of great players. I think we only have one really great player behind center in the NFL right now, and that's Patrick Mahomes. And then I also think when Aaron Rodgers comes back, he'll be another great one. But we're not seeing, this is not the decade of the quarterback, which is unfortunate. So I think defenses are improving, defenses are getting better, and I don't think we're not that talented at the QB position. So hopefully with everything that I've stated, you understand where I'm coming from. I was wrong again about not winning, winning 9 games when I expected us to win 7. So he's proven us wrong there. So kudos for you, Jordan Love and the Green Bay Packers and Matt LaFleur. But I also think that's just a product of the NFL just being terrible, right? Saints not being that good, the Falcons not being that good, the Raiders. I mean, everybody in the NFL is mediocre. I don't consider that parity. Parity is when everybody in the NFL is great to me, and then somebody's got to win at the end of the day, right? So then, that's just what it is. But when you could tell talent-wise that we're not seeing talent really spread across the board amongst all of these players and teams, I mean, a lot of these guys are not Hall of Famers. I think that's when it comes down to it, is that there's a lot of guys who are big names on teams just because they're the stars of the team. But it doesn't mean that those guys are going to end up being Hall of Famers. Like Aaron Jones has not done enough to be a Hall of Famer on the Green Bay Packers. Now, he might be a Hall of Famer in Green Bay's Hall of Fame, but that's not saying much of anything, So it's about great players who stand out that the league recognizes. And I think when you look across the board, there's a lot of mediocre play all the way across the board from all positions and et cetera, offense and defense. So, but like always, it's, they got to play the game between the white chalk, and they got to prove it. So, hey, if you don't know the Lord Jesus Christ, you should get to know him. It will be the best decision you ever make in your life. I suggest that you look up or just pray to the Lord and ask him to come into your life. And again, this is all sports. It's all talk. It's just a game of football that we all love, whether we agree or disagree with one another. I still think I'm going to end up right when it's all said and done. I just want y'all to know I'm still very confident in what I was saying before, but I would be glad to say that I was wrong. But hey, it's just a game. It's all in love. I want peace, love, and happy, you guys. I want to thank you so much for listening. And again, this is Just Another Cheesehead podcast. Join me on the next one. Good luck to the Green Bay Packers in the playoffs. I know sometimes it sounds like I may not be a Packer fan. I definitely am. I'm tired of mediocre football. I'm tired of watching talent get wasted, and I want to see us win. I want to see us win like other teams have won, right? I want to see us legitimate. When you see that, you don't doubt the San Francisco 49ers defense. You don't doubt Lamar Jackson's legs, right? You don't doubt Patrick Mahomes in the Super Bowl. Those guys, those players, those teams in the past or recent past have performed at a level that they had an expectation and they exceeded it, or they met that expectation. What I hate with Green Bay is what they've done over the years is we've had expectations and then we look like we didn't belong there at all, which was terrible. You know, getting trounced, getting beat, and then people are pointing fingers, and it's just foolish. Because it always starts from the top down. So, but that's me. I'm the Nemesis, your nemesis. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for those who are watching. Peace, love, and hap. I'll catch you on the next one.